Okay, for today's video, we're going to go over the making of and breakdown of my stop motion short film beach battle Metriacanthosaurus versus Concavenator. Okay, so starting with the idea for this video. So I want to first say this video is heavily inspired by Dead Sound's making of videos for the Dinosauria and Sauria series. I love the animated short films he does and the making of videos that go after them. So when I decided I wanted to make my first stop motion film on the channel, I really wanted to do something kind of similar, which this video is. It's not like an exact copy, but it's kind of like my version of that for my stop motion videos. Okay, so I've always wanted to do a stop motion film on this channel, but I just never did until this one that just came out recently. Because I've always loved watching stop motion dinosaur short films on YouTube, especially like the claymation films by like Fred the Dinosaur Man. Those were some of the first videos I can remember watching on YouTube. So I've just always loved those stop motion films. And obviously growing up being somebody who loved watching dinosaur documentaries, stop motion was like the best way I could think of like almost making my dinosaur documentary. Because I didn't know how to do like obviously like the CGI and the animations that like some other people do. Maybe someday we could figure that stuff out, but for now, this is probably the closest I can get to doing something like that. So, yeah. But yeah, I used to make dinosaur stop motion films on the stop motion app on my old iPad, but I don't think any of those videos still exist. If they do, I would love to find them. But yeah, those were a long time ago, and they were with non-articulated figures. The only ones I can really remember doing specifically were just the Pterobibitat Pachyrhinosaurus and maybe like a group of Pachyrhinosaurs, but I remember that one specifically, and it was being attacked by the Collectae Mosasaurus. Actually, I have both those figures beside me, but yeah, this one, and it was supposed to be like a scene, almost like a Pachyrhinosaurus, almost like a zebra in Africa drinking water, and then the Mosasaur was almost like a crocodile coming out. So I guess that would have been like honestly kind of worked out really well now because hindsight, because now that there's been a recent paper about how mosasaurs would go into fresh water, so yeah, more possible now than it probably was whenever I made that, because I mean it's not like Pachyrhinosaurus would have been drinking out of salt water, but I mean I guess it could have just been going across the coastline. But yeah, that is pretty cool now that I think about that, since there has been that recent paper about mosasaurs going into fresh water, which I always thought was realistic. I mean, why would not? I mean, I don't. Why would a large marine reptile not just go into fresh water occasionally, like how saltwater crocodiles do? Uh, but I know they spend a lot of time in fresh water as well. But yeah, did want to just mention that. Uh, but yeah, I've not tried to make a stop motion film in years. Honestly, that one was probably 10+ years ago when I tried to make it. Um, so around 10-ish years ago, probably whenever I made that video, um, because it was around the time. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. But it was around the time when the website Nothing But Dinosaurs was still up, or I think, yeah, Nothing But Dinosaurs. I don't know if any of you all remember that, but that's where I bought my mosasaurs from. I bought it and some of the Terabyte, or not Terabyte, Geo World Jurassic Hunters and stuff from Nothing But Dinosaurs, but I'm pretty sure that website has been, or that online store has been out of business for a while. But yeah, that's where I picked up that figure. But yeah, I'm not trying to make a figure since then, or a video since then, and that's when right around then is also when I made that stop motion film. But yeah, so the two ideas I originally had for a stop motion film for this channel, well, one I had kind of planned for a while. This is like, so for stop motion's been something I wanted to do on this channel for a long time, like I mentioned. I think I had in my description that stop motion was something that would be on this channel, and it was I know for a fact it was the only playlist that I had on this channel that did not have a public video, or like, well, I mean, there was no videos in it. It's not like a public or private, but there was no videos in it. But it's the only playlist I had that had not had a video in it since like forever. Since I'd planned on making a stop motion film, but just hadn't. But the video I'd planned on making for the longest time was a Deinosuchus attacking something. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew it was going to be a Deinosuchus, and I was going to record it at my local creek. But I just never made that one, and it just didn't make sense to make right now because, well, for one, it's December where I'm at. So literally earlier in the week, around the time whenever I made the stop motion film involving these figures, there was literally snow on the ground. So going out to my creek, I mean, for one, the snow on the ground would not have fit this aesthetic I was trying to go for. And also, I just did not want to be out in that. I mean, yeah. So that wasn't really an option right now. Definitely could see myself doing that video in the future and would love to, but that was one option. And then the other option I had was to do a Jurassic period, almost like Morrison Formation scene, where it would include a variety of dinosaurs, including Allosaurus, Stegosaurus, Ornitholestes, Ceratosaurus, Dryosaurus, maybe even Saurophaganax, or just having 2 different Allosaurus species. Not for sure exactly what I was going to do with that, but it was going to be a collection of Morrison dinosaurs. Not for sure which, or if it was going to be those, or possibly some other ones, but it was going to be something like that. But unfortunately, I didn't have the specific figures I wanted to use for that video. I might be getting them soon, though, so that could be definitely something I do in the future. But yeah, because of that, and so neither one of those really made sense right now because, like I said, the Morrison formation Allosaurus one just don't have those figures yet, so can't really do that one. And then the other one I was heavily considering, the Deinosuchus one, just the weather is not at the time to be making that video right now. But those are both ones I could do in the future. But I really wanted to do a stop motion film anyways, so like I said, I still decided I wanted to try to do a stop motion film anyways, and I can still try both of those ideas in the future, especially if I enjoy making the first one before those. So I decided to try to think of something involving some of the figures I already had that I could currently do, and that's where we ended up with the video that ended up getting posted. So I realized early on I wanted to do something involving some of the Hammond collection figures I have, as though they're the articulated figures I own that seem to be the best for exactly what I was wanting to do. At least right now. Like some other figures I had that are articulated that could have worked were like the Beast of the Mesozoic ones. But I don't know, for whatever reason, just the figures I have of both, the Hammond collection ones just seem to work better for what exactly I was trying to do. I don't know. Mine just are a little tight on their posability for the Beast of the Mesozoic figures I have. I don't know if this is the right term, but they almost feel more fragile. So I chose to go with my Hammond collection figures, at least for this first one. But I would love to do something with the Beast of the Mesozoic figures in the future, especially once I talk about some of the issues that I will mention later on. But yeah, so I decided to go with some of my Hammond collection figures I have. And like I said, those articulated figures were definitely something I wanted to do, since, like I said, the early stop motion films I did years and years ago involved non-articulated figures. And I actually think they turned out okay, but obviously articulated figures are going to make this look much better. And since I only have a few Hammond collection figures, it became pretty clear which ones were going to make the most sense as far as 2 that made sense size-wise, and made sense as far as like the storyline in my head for how they could have met each other. Since I didn't want this to be like some Jurassic Park Island situation, I didn't want it to just be 2 dinosaurs that lived, like one in the Triassic and one in the Cretaceous meet up. I wanted it to be somewhat realistic, at least somewhat in my mind. So what I ended up settling on was Metriacanthosaurus and Concavenator, because both are in a size range that made sense, both figure-wise and in their real dinosaur counterparts. To have a fight that wouldn't be like overwhelming for one or the other. And I thought it was a pretty interesting storyline with the pairing, or at least a storyline I thought was interesting. Okay, so like I said, the 2 main dinosaurs I selected were the Metriacanthosaurus, which is from the late Jurassic England, around 160 million years ago, and the other main dinosaur, the Concavenator, is from early Cretaceous Spain, around 125 million years ago. So my idea was supposed to be one of the last Metriacanthosauruses, and one of the first Concavenators, and they were somewhere between Spain and England. So I was honestly at first originally planning for the French coast, but then I realized France might have not even touched the coastline, because I wasn't for sure, like with continental drift, what would have actually been the coastline. So pretty much it's somewhere between Spain and England, possibly France, but somewhere between those 2 that would have had a coastline. So yeah, definitely somewhere in Europe, but in that range. And the reason I really wanted the coastline setting for these 2 was the prey that I ended up choosing for them to fight over, because I didn't want these 2 to just be fighting for nothing, because I thought that would have been stupid. You know, I didn't like the idea of just having 2 big predator dinosaurs fight over nothing. I thought there definitely had to be some reward available. So I originally planned to do something like a sauropod carcass, but then as I looked at the 2 formations that these dinosaurs were from, I ended up finding a really cool prey species, which you all would have seen. And that's when I ended up settling on, well, as you all know, if you watch the video, well, I mean, I guess I could have subbed it in for something else, but it would be Liopleurodon. Okay, and like I said, I chose Liopleurodon to be the prey animal for these 2, because as I looked at the 2 formations both are from, I saw that Liopleurodon is actually from the same formation that Metriacanthosaurus is from, being the Oxford Clay Formation. And since I had the perfect figure, I thought, being this slightly beat up Safari LTD Liopleurodon I got in a lot years ago. I think it's actually one of the first lots I picked up on this channel. I thought it was perfect. I mean, it's got that little beat up spot on the face, and it's just got some whitening on it. So I thought it looked as like the perfect one to use as the carcass of a Liopleurodon. And it was kind of fitting because if you've seen Walking with Dinosaurs, you know, there's the scene with, it's not Metriacanthosaurus, but it is, I think you stripped a spondylus. Actually, it's killed by a Liopleurodon. So this one's kind of the reverse, where a land predator is eating the Liopleurodon carcass. So yeah, I really liked how that worked out. Which I think actually kind of does, if I'm remembering right, there's actually, now that I think about it, a scene where a Liopleurodon or a pliosaur of some sort becomes prey for some creatures on the beach. But that might have been the Australopithecus or Polar Allosaur episode as well. But yeah, so I thought that was really cool. So yeah, that pretty much decided which dinosaurs and marine reptiles were chosen because I didn't want to be like I said, the Jurassic Park type setting. I didn't want this to be like two completely different animals that like no chance of meeting together, like Spinosaurus and T-Rex or like Coelophysis and Velociraptor. I want it to be at least somewhat possible. I know that it's probably very highly unlikely that Metriacanthosaurus ever interacted with Concavenator. However, I thought this was kind of a fun scenario that maybe is somewhat possible, both being European dinosaurs from like not such a crazy time period off that it's completely impossible, but not very likely. And like I said, I just kind of had to work with what I had. And I will also note, I really like how this scene worked. This was one of the first videos I've done where I've actually got to use this spinning table. And I think it's kind of fitting because, for one, I did like showing the two theropods off on it, but I also kind of like how it looks like two dinosaurs literally looking at their prey just spinning on a table, which it kind of is. But yeah, so I like how this scene turned out right here on screen. But yeah, I really like how that turned out. And like I said, I know, like I said, it's probably highly unlikely that these two could have ever met, but I didn't want it to either also be like a Spinosaurus T-Rex matchup. And I know I could have also like substituted in one of these. Like maybe I could have said this Metriacanthosaurus was something like Neovanator or something else, you know. And I'm not even for sure if the Concavenator and it would have interacted either. But, you know, I could have substituted it in. But I thought I did want to just represent these as what the figures actually are. And like I said, it was maybe possible. So yeah, that's why we ended up going with what we did. Okay, and pretty much, so now we'll kind of go over the plot that I decided to go for this video. So the plot I decided to go with was like a coastline, like I kind of mentioned, with the dead juvenile Liopleurodon, where it washes up on the coast somewhere in Europe between England and Spain, possibly France, between 160 to 125 million years ago. So like either very late Jurassic or very early Cretaceous. And either way, the carcass attracts many predators. At first, you see the Concavenator sniffing out the carcass, but I have it where the Concavenator is actually not the first predator to get to the carcass. And I really like how that scene turned out because it's kind of like subverts the expectation where that you're expecting the Concavenator to get to it, but then you actually see the Metriacanthosaurus that gets to the Liopleurodon carcass first. I really like how that turned out. And then the Metriacanthosaurus drags off the carcass a little further up the beach, but not long before the Concavenator also gets to it, which eventually leads to the fight where neither one gets killed, but one does get to eat the meal. But yeah, that's pretty much how like the plot ended up going. And I also did draw out a little storyboard, which I will show on screen right now. This was pretty much like I said, what I was kind of like drawing out for what I wanted this to be like. So yeah, we'll show that on screen. Like this was kind of like, I guess, like what a storyboard would be. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done dinosaur drawings, and like I said, this was almost more of just a storyboard drawing, so it was more just to kind of like draw out ideas and let it actually be good. So yeah, it's been a while since I've drawn on the channel. Yeah, we used to do dinosaur drawings of the month. Maybe you could pick that back up if y'all would like to see that, but yeah, so here it was. There's the first scene. That's the Liopleurodon carcass washing up on the shore. You can see the tree line, the waves and stuff, the waves, the trees, and then you have the Concavenator smell it out. The Metriacanthosaurus get to it first. Then the face off where the Metriacanthosaurus has the carcass, but the Concavenator comes, then it tries to drag it off. And at one point, I planned on having this scene where they were like almost having like a tug of war scene, but I ended up not doing that. I can't remember if I just couldn't get the figures to stand or I just kind of just decided not to do that anyways. But yeah, Metri versus Conc storyboard. So yeah, I drew that on 12/7/25. If I can remember, actually I probably can. I'll see really quickly right now what the date was that I actually recorded the video, just to give you all an idea. Photos. Okay, I'm sorry for, but yeah. So that, like I said, that was our storyboard drawing. I like how it turned out. It actually looks a little better than I remembered how it looked. But, yeah, so, okay, here it is. We got, so we finished recording, we finished recording December 7th. Oh, so yeah, literally, so I drew this earlier in the day, and literally later that day, ended up actually making it. But this was something that, like I said, had kind of been planned for a while, because I'd planned on doing a stop motion video, and then I think it was a couple days before this, I decided I really wanted to do one now, and then we actually ended up finally recording it, drawing it, and obviously, like I said, planning out what I wanted to do had been like a couple day process until we eventually settled on the Concavenator one, which, like I said, ended up drawing on the 7th, ended up doing, and then ended up on YouTube. Ended up on YouTube the 12th. Yeah, I guess it was a little later uploading it than I planned on, but yeah, either way, it came out. But yeah, so now we'll move on to the next thing, which is discussing the audio of this video. Okay, now for the audio. So I planned at first, when I was originally just making this stop motion before I'd actually done the audio, my plan originally was to actually add voiceover, where it would be like a dead juvenile Liopleurodon washes to the shore. But after recording the film, I realized, at least for this video, I was going to end up just doing like animal sounds and stuff because, well, for one, just where it was so short, I just think my audio I would have to just talk so fast, it wouldn't have seemed that good, for one. And then two, I think just for this video specifically, this first one, just doing the sounds kind of worked anyways. Oh, and I will say, when I was talking about the 7th earlier, I can't remember if that's after I added the audio or not. That's probably not after I added the audio. So yeah, it was probably the 7th, and then a few days later I added the audio. Probably that's what was between the 7th and 12th. One of those days is when I actually did the audio, but, or maybe it was later that day. Either way though, but yeah, so I decided to just do the audio noises. So for the first audio, I ended up doing that like those wave sound effect, and that was to make like the Liopleurodon carcass washing up onto the shore sound more realistic, because I know just seeing it like it move across that hardwood just might have just not made it look that realistic, honestly, because I mean, it just looks like it's barely moving. But with the wave sound effect, I thought it made it seem at least made it look more like what it was, just because the audio obviously enhanced what the scene looked like. And then for the Concavenator scene where it's sniffing, I mean, you don't really, I feel like, hear reptiles like making a strong snarling noise, and especially like from the distance you would have seen it in the video. So what I ended up doing was just adding like some jungle sound effects. And that was more just because, like, you could see the trees in the background. So almost what I was picturing in my mind was like, so there was the beach line with the coast, and then there was like the edge where like there was some trees and stuff. Almost like specifically what's a really good, so like in Prehistoric Planet, the scene where the Tyrannosaur going to the Alamosaurus carcass, so like where it's like that tree line, and then so also the Mosasaur one, because I haven't even seen season 2 yet, but yeah, almost like a bunch of trees, on almost like an island looking thing, and then the dinosaurs could come out of there onto the sand, and then the actual water. That's almost what I was kind of going for. So yeah, that's what the Concavenator sniffs it out, and that's why you hear those noises as well as the beach, because it's right in between both of those areas. And then as you see the Metriacanthosaurus dragging off the Concavenator, you're still dragging off the Liopleurodon, sorry. You hear the wave sound effects still, but it's a little less loud than when you saw just the Liopleurodon washing up. And then the 2 dinosaurs, I did 2 different animal noises for. When I kept the like wave noise throughout and kind of just like had it higher and lower audios to kind of just keep that like coastline noise, but not too loud. And try to, like I said, make it make a little bit more sense when it was specifically just the scene right at like the beach. But for the dinosaurs themselves, I decided to go with 2 different noises. I went with alligator and crocodile noises, and that paired over the scenes better than I thought they would. The majority of it is alligator noises, which were supposed to be like coming from the Metriacanthosaurus, and it actually, I will say, paired over very well. Because I was kind of worried how that was going to look, but just I went over like a 10-second-ish, maybe not even that long, clip of alligator noises and just paired it over the Metriacanthosaurus, and it like paired almost perfectly for what I was trying to do. And I will say one thing with this Metriacanthosaurus figure while I'm thinking about it, only one issue I really have with this figure is that the head, like, you can't get it to like stay, or at least not with my figure, like the fully open jaw. Like the top jaw always like auto shuts for me. Like it won't stay up unless you just have it at a perfect angle. So it didn't work great for having a scene like that in the stop motion film. And then for the Concavenator, I did the one crocodile noise. I mean, it didn't really matter to me which animal was making which noise, but the reason I mainly just went with those two noises, I thought they were the most realistic because, I mean, for two larger reptiles, I thought the crocodilian noises would make the most sense. I mean, I could have went maybe something like a Komodo dragon, but, you know, being more related to the crocodilians, like this Deinosuchus here, I thought made sense because I didn't think bird noises would have made much sense either. So that's why I ended up going with crocodile and alligator noises. I know I could have maybe went something like the Jurassic Park dinosaur noises, but for one, I thought honestly the croc and alligator noises sounded more realistic, and honestly I was a little worried how those sounds are copyrighted and stuff. Didn't know exactly how that stuff works, so I figured between both reasons it made a lot more sense just to go with the crocodile noises. And I meant to show this figure off whenever I was mentioning, so yeah, that like stop motion scene I was talking about, maybe doing something like this earlier when I was saying like, so like a dinosaur's going to drink and then the Deinosuchus would grab it whenever I was mentioning that, but I think I forgot to show this figure up on screen. But yeah, that could be a potential other stop motion video. But yeah, now we'll get into the issues of this video. So there's a few main issues I had, and this is just the recording. Like this is nothing as far as the results on YouTube or anything, but just the main issues I had while recording. So the biggest issue that I'm going to discuss first is the background. So yeah, pretty much the background, pretty much everything excluding the dinosaurs is pretty much what we're talking about, but I'm just referring to it as background. So like the floor being hardwood, or the floor where I used the hardwood as water, the carpet as sand, and then the chair legs as trees, and just pretty much everything else you all can see in the background. Like, I will 100% acknowledge that this just could have looked so much better. It didn't not look great, but it was kind of the only thing that made sense for me in the moment. And I have two solutions for this. One would be to get a green screen. I don't really know how a green screen works, and I don't know if like I just would make the whole stop motion video and then could just add a green screen at the end. I don't really know how all that stuff works, but definitely would probably look better than what we had. And then another option I have, like I said, I could go to that creek, but or just anywhere outside. The only issues with those two would be, you know, moving the figures in and out. I wouldn't want to get them damaged, but I mean, that I think we could work with that. But then also, you know, just like it took like an hour, I think, but as you know, I figured it out more, it was less time, but it takes a while to make a stop motion video. So, you know, being outside that long, just with weather and everything, there could be issues, but yeah, both of those are possibilities. And then one of the other issues I had, and this was honestly more of an annoyance than anything, but I was kind of stuck on the stop motion app. It was whatever was in the corner of the actual video. So if you watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that's the app that I used whenever I was little. But there are some issues with the app. Like for one, you can't just take like a bunch of photos and then just add them on. You have to be in the stop motion app and take the photos themselves. That is if you're on the free version, which I am, because I'm not paying for the premium unless, you know, we just start doing really well on the stop motion stuff, and then it becomes the better way for me to pay for the premium one. But as of right now, I'm sticking with the free version. But like I said, it's the one I've used from when I was little. Like I had to add the audio after, but that's not a big issue at all. But there was just a few annoyances with having to use it. Like I said, the main one was just I couldn't like just take photos and add them on. Like, you know, there's settings where you can take better photos from certain angles on your phone. Oops, sorry. But when you're stuck on the stop motion app, you have to use the photos they specifically kind of want you to use. So that was kind of an annoyance. So yeah, if anybody has any and like I was saying, so since I had to use those specific photos, you know, I couldn't crop any photos. I couldn't do anything like that. But I mean, that kind of might have been a headache on its own if I had to do that for the whole video. But that's pretty much what I was talking about with that stuff. So, but yeah, if you all have any recommendations for a better stop motion app or anything, I would definitely be interested. So, and then one issue, I realized a little too late. There was one specific scene, and I don't know how well you all picked. I'm sure somebody saw it at least, but there was one specific scene where there was the Metriacanthosaurus, and this figure stands fairly well on like a flat surface, but where I was on that carpet, sometimes it would barely stand. And there was one scene where the tip of my finger was touching the tail, and it just did not hold up super well. So there was a few scenes where I had to like keep touching like the back of the tail or certain parts to just get it to stay up. And there was one scene where I think the tip of my finger is visible, and yeah, it just didn't look great, 100% honest. And it wasn't like one where, you know, I could take a picture afterwards and readjust it. It was either pretty much, since I was in the stop motion app, I almost had to just like delete it or not have it in. But I thought for the scene itself, I kind of liked exactly how that image looked other than my finger. So I decided to keep it in because, like I said, it just kind of fit in between the other ones. And literally, other than the finger, I really liked how it looked. So I decided to keep it in. Yeah. But also, this was another part that like highlighted to me. I definitely want to do these at a different place because, like I said, not only did I just not think it looked good, but just the figures barely stood well on that carpet. So obviously that also added an issue. And then one other issue, this is sort of like a pro and con or a double-edged sword in a way, being that, you know, I was just kind of limited with the figures I chose. So like the Concavenator and Metriacanthosaurus specifically, you know, I honestly, like I said, one of my first videos I planned to do was the Allosaurus, like Morrison formation one, because, you know, those were all dinosaurs that interacted with each other and we know lived together. But there's a really probably way more likely chance that these two never interacted than there is a chance that they did interact. So, I would probably have went with two dinosaurs that interacted with each other if I had them, like an Allosaurus Stegosaurus scenario. But since I didn't, I did get to make this like cool, fun, hypothetical scenario, which I did really like. So it's really not that big of an issue. And honestly, out of all the issues I mentioned, and if there's any more I mentioned after this, this is the one have the least amount of an issue with. And then yeah, I guess the only other issue I'll have is just, obviously, I mean, with this being my first stop motion film I've uploaded on YouTube, there's definitely just other ways it could have been better. It could have looked better. Photos could have been better if I took more time. Just the movement of the figures, you know, like slightly adjusting the arm while slightly adjusting the mouth. I could have just made it look better. But, you know, like I said, one of the biggest limitations I honestly had is just the fact I was stuck on that carpet and just like barely moving a figure slightly, but on that carpet, they would fall over half the time. So like it was just such a headache as far as that. So that's why honestly I think the worst part of the whole video was the fight itself. So is that? But yeah, I guess with all that being said though, all these are issues that can be fixed. So I think we could have actually do some pretty good stop motion stuff. Okay, I will go back. One thing, I do wish I could have made it a little longer. And I think honestly, one of the biggest issues why I didn't make it longer is just the fight itself just turned out not as good as I would have liked. And that's just, like I said, the carpet was part of that. But then also I kind of was like, I know what I'm, like, as you all saw with the storyboard, I kind of knew what I was doing going up to the fight. But then once I got to the fight itself, I was like, okay, what do we do here? So, yeah. And I mean, I don't hate how the fight turned out. I don't think, like, it wasn't just a super long fight. It could have been, like, longer, more chaotic. But I don't think that's a horrible situation that didn't happen because, you know, maybe that's more realistic. They would just have a little bit of a toss-up and then be like, okay, we'll just stop here, live to fight another day type of scenario. But, yeah. But with all that being said, none of those are issues that can't be fixed, like I said. So I would love to do more of these improved in the future. And honestly, I think this is all good stuff that I have an issues area because this shows just this can be better in the future. So yeah, we're not stuck at where we're currently at. But yeah, like what I was saying though a little bit before we actually go into like the reaction to the video itself, I wanted this fight. I mean, I wanted it to be a good fight, but I wanted it to kind of show like a slightly realistic thing where like two animals might get into a fight over a carcass, but a lot of the time, you know, the price of getting the meal itself is usually not worth, you know, dying over because you would rather live another day hungry than, you know, risk dying for a meal when you can go without it. So that's kind of why the result ended up being what it was. But now we will actually have a reaction to the video. So I'll show it. We'll pull up YouTube and watch it and kind of react. It'll be the first time I've actually watched the video since when I uploaded it, I guess. And then we will go over the featured figure section, which is all the figures shown throughout this video. So that does include all the ones obviously in the stop motion film. And then we will go over our little ending bit. But yeah, let's get into the reaction right now. Okay, and before we actually react to the video, I will say one thing. I am honestly a little disappointed with how this video performed on YouTube, I will say, at least so far. Within like the it says 4 days, but it's between 4 and 5 days that it's been up. I honestly thought it was going to do a little better, just to be completely honest. But maybe it's because that last video, that Fortnite video, performed so bad that maybe people just haven't been wanting to watch as much content. But yeah, I was, like I said, a little disappointed just between, you know, I thought like a cool figure video, and just where it was so short, I just thought it would be a nice video, you know, people would click on, just watch through, and then, you know, kind of just be good. But it hasn't done so well yet, honestly. But I feel like this is one of those videos, you know, that could just randomly do really good one day, because like it got a really good amount of like the like to view ratio. Yeah, 4 likes to 19 views. I mean, that's really solid. I mean, like the Fortnite video, 17 views, 1 like, and like the new dinosaur and prehistoric animal figure releases video, that one did much better on the views with 89 and only got 6 likes. So like the like to view ratio is really good, but just 19 views. But this is like, I feel like almost one of those, like I said, almost like evergreenish videos. I've heard is like the term for like a video that can do good for a while. Like this isn't a video that has to be watched now. You know, it's not like I watch like a lot of sports videos. So like, you know, the stuff pertaining to LSU like a month ago is almost irrelevant at this point. But like this is a video, you know, you could watch anytime and it would still be at least somewhat interesting. So yeah, so now let's actually get into it. Most of this video has been at least somewhat scripted. Like, not like I have a script, but I'm not exactly completely reading off it. It's more like just points, like talk about this, talk about that. But yeah, now we're actually going to watch it, like I said, for the first time in, well, since the 4-ish days it's been okay. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so yeah, that first scene, and yeah, I'm not gonna watch like the whole video without pausing. So if you want to watch that, you can just watch the regular video. But yeah, so the first scene, like I said, it's the Liopleurodon kind of washing up on shore, and like I said, it makes it look a lot better, I feel like, with the sound. We're actually gonna go in a slower. Oh, I'm in 1.5 speed. No wonder it's so off. Yeah, I normally watch videos in a quicker speed. Yeah, I guess we'll just go 1.0. So that's. Yeah, the Concavenator smells, and that's where you hear like the jungle-ish sounds and a little bit of the coast sounds still. And then this is the part I really like. So you see that foot and like a little bit of the shadow, and what you're expecting is or at least what I'm making it look like is you're expecting the Concavenator to come, since, you know, that was the theropod you just saw sniffing around. But instead you see the Metriacanthosaurus. Yeah, I love how this scene comes. Yeah, the Metriacanthosaurus starts eating, and there you have it. That's that alligator-ish noise. That's like that growling type noise. And then you have the Concavenator come up. And I will say one part of this, the reason why it's like in that crouched down position is just it held up a little easier like that. But also I kind of like how it looks, because it's like, you know, kind of just sneaking up type of a look. And that's the crocodile noise right now. Right when the Concavenator opens its mouth, that noise, that's the crocodile noise. Yeah, they start fighting. Okay, there it was. Yep, right there. You see my hand for, I said finger, but I guess it was more like my whole hand almost looking. But yeah, so both dinosaurs still fighting over the carcass, and it looks like the Metriacanthosaurus is pushed over the Concavenator. The Concavenator gets back up, pushes it down. They kind of get in a roll, and then the Metriacanthosaurus gets up over it, roars, and I love that the alligator noise continued to, that was like the perfect time for that noise to come out. But like I said, it was pretty much like a 10-second just audio, and I just plugged it in over. I didn't like cut it for certain times. It just kind of went over perfect. And I had it where it's that scene where like the Metriacanthosaurus is roaring over, like showing like, I could kill you right now. But the Concavenator, and partially what I think is kind of cool is its hand was actually blocking it. And part of that was just so the Metriacanthosaurus would stay up, but it also was so that it looks like it's kind of defending itself. We'll see if I can get it to show. Yeah, right there. The hand's kind of blocking the mouth, which makes the roar look more like it's actually about to bite. But it's also the Metriacanthosaurus, you know, kind of showing that it's like trying to struggle and like guard it from biting its neck. So, yeah. Metriacanthosaurus goes off and swims, and then the Concavenator gets to eat its meal. So yeah, pretty happy with our first stop motion video. yeah, could be better. Like I said, I had a lot of issues that I mentioned about it, but I'm pretty happy with how it overall turned out. So now I guess we'll get into the featured figures section and then have my little ending discussion. Okay, before we get into the featured figures section, I will say, um, even though I hate that I feel like I kind of complained saying the 19 views. I'm really thankful we got 19 views, and I'm really supportive of the likes we get on the video. But I really feel like that video could do better. And like I said, there's so many issues with it that maybe 19's is great for what it is, really. But maybe with this video and maybe just over time, I think that video can do better. But still, we'll now get into the actual featured figures section, which it's been a long time since I've done a featured figures section. So if you haven't seen one of these before on my channel, pretty much what the featured figures section is, it's a little part where I go over all the dinosaur figures or prehistoric animal figures, especially in this case, that are featured throughout the video, and just kind of talk about them a little, like the brand wise, and if they're like retired or how hard they are to get, as well as just a little bit of stuff about them, and mention if they have been reviewed on my channel, and if so, I will put a link to the description. And yeah, so the two actual stars of this video I actually have reviewed on the channel a while ago. I didn't even remember reviewing both of them. I thought I'd reviewed one or the other, but it turns out I actually have reviewed both of them. And if I can remember this, and if I can figure out how, I will throw it up on screen now. I see a lot of YouTubers do this, but I don't really know how to do it. So if I can't, or if I forget, it will be in the description for sure. But yeah, I have reviewed the Hammond collection, Metriacanthosaurus. Oh, and see, he's wanting to fall right now, so you can only imagine how bad he was on carpet. And the Hammond collection Concavenator. Unfortunately for the Hammond collection, with both the Metriacanthosaurus and Concavenator, these figures kind of release in waves, and unfortunately, once their wave kind of is no longer available at places like Target, Big Bad Toy Store, Amazon, etc., at least at their retail price, they have not released or re-released any of them. And I will say that is a major disappointment for somebody like me, who would like to try to complete the whole set at some point, but just some of the prices were ridiculous. Like for one, the Ceratosaurus, that's a big one. I remember when I first saw the Hammond Collection Wave, I really wanted that one, but I never saw it in store, so I never got it. And that is one I wouldn't. I remember I saw the Baryonyx and the Parasaurolophus, but I didn't buy either of those two. But I did see the Ceratosaurus, or I never saw the Ceratosaurus in store from that same wave, and that's the only reason I didn't buy it, is because I never saw it in store. So, I just kept waiting. Oh, I'll eventually find it in store. And I never did find it in Target. And I think Target's like the only like in-store retailer that really gets these. But I never saw it at Target. So I just didn't get it. And now it's like $100-ish figure at least on like places like eBay and stuff. And then, so that's my little Hammond rant. I really hope that, well, continuing with it a little bit, I really hope that they do re-release some of these Hammond collection figures. They're really awesome. And one thing I think that would be a great idea, because they've kind of done this with like the Raptors, maybe, and I know it's because there's different Raptors, but do like a color re-release, like maybe like the Concavenator again. And like, I know they're worth more when they don't do this stuff, but personally, I would just rather more people have access to these figures, and especially some like the Ceratosaurus, just you never got a chance to get in hand, and they would sell. That is one thing. As a business idea person, why would you not make money when it's available? So make more of that Spinosaurus. I'm going to get back on my Spinosaurus rant. Please make more of those. I'm hoping I'm able to get one of those at some point. Make more of these, guys. I don't care, even though I've got them. There's some from the earlier Hammond waves, like the Ceratosaurus, that I would love to get. So I wouldn't care if mine become less valuable if I can get the others for a more affordable price. But yeah, there's my actual Hammond rant done. But yeah, both of these two I have reviewed on the channel actually a couple years back, but I will put a link to both videos in the description. And I will try to throw up on screen if I didn't already. And then the other figures, we have the Pterobiba Pachyrhinosaurus and the Mosasaurus. Two figures that I can't remember if either of these two are actually retired. I think they're fairly easy to get, at least on some places. Could be completely wrong on that. But this actually is Collecte's older Mosasaurus figure, but I absolutely love this figure. This was the first Collecte figure I ever got. It was the only one I had for years. Beautiful, beautiful figure. One of my favorites I own. Then the Included Liopleurodon. Like I said, this one is from one of the first lots I ever got on this channel. And this one's a little beat up. I have another one that I actually had from when I was little that's in much better shape than this one. But yeah, this one's a little beat up. But like I said, it actually worked perfectly for this specific video. And the other figure we have is the Safari Ltd. Carnegie Collection Deinosuchus, and this one is the most beat up one I have. I have 3 of this figure actually that I've gotten from lots. This one actually might be from the same lot that this Liopleurodon's from. I can't remember. I think it is though. And yeah, this is the most beat up one I have. I could have picked up a better condition of this figure, but this is just the one I kind of keep on my shelf just because, like I said, since I have 3 of this figure. And what's funny is this was one of my favorite figures growing up, but I didn't get it when I was growing, like when I was little. But around the time when I started this channel, I ended up getting 3 really early on. But yeah, I have this one, and I love this one. Even though it's the beat up one, I just love having this one. I just kind of sit it on my desk. But yeah. So that's the featured figures, and I guess, yeah, I guess I can just have my little ending bit here. Everybody's on screen and everything. But yeah, that's it for this video. And with all this being said, I had so much fun planning not only this video, but especially the stop motion film itself. And so yeah, the making of the stop motion video and this video, I had so much fun, and I would love to make another like follow-up set of these, like make another stop motion video and have one of these discussion videos at the end. This was such a fun process to do. And like I said, please, I would love it if you would check out the full just stop motion clip, like without me pausing and stuff. It's only like 40-ish seconds. And it's nothing incredible. Like I mentioned in this video, there was a ton of issues with it, but I still think it's a pretty fun watch. So, and I would really appreciate it if you would watch it. But yeah, that's it. And like I said, I would love to make another set of these videos, but this video did take a little bit of time, obviously, because the scripting and actually doing it and everything. So we might not make a ton of these if these videos don't perform that well, just 100% honest. Like, there's just so many, the truth is, there's just so much fun, different dinosaur and prehistoric animal content I can do with video games, figures, talking about documentaries, etc. that, like, you know, there's just so much I can do with it. But since there's so many ways, if like certain categories just don't perform well, I just probably won't do as much of them unless I just really want to. And I really do want to do the stop motion stuff. I really plan to at least do the 3 I've discussed in this video. I really want to do a Deinosuchus video at some point, and would love to do that Allosaurus one. That one I think might be my best one. And honestly, if none of these 3 perform well, we probably aren't going to do many more of them. But if they do perform well, we could definitely do more of them. But like I said, I had so much fun with this video that we'll probably at least try out a few, and hopefully one does well. And if so, you'll all probably be seeing more videos like this. But just feedback would be greatly appreciated. If you all, like I said, I had a whole issue section. So if you all have any other issues, whatever they may be, I would love the feedback. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. And like I said, pretty much you all dictate what is going to be on this channel. If you all like videos, watch videos, there'll be more videos like it. Because like I said, there's just so much fun stuff I can do in this dinosaur prehistoric animal content area. Like I said, I want to do gaming, and I know Fortnite's kind of its own thing, so maybe that's why. Okay, the little ending clip I was recording did unfortunately cut out because I ran out of storage on my phone. But so I'll try to wrap this up quick now that I have deleted a few things. But yeah, pretty much what I was just explaining. Yeah, you all kind of just dictate what kind of content will be on here. Like, I'm going to record stuff and upload stuff I want to record and upload. But, you know, if videos do well, that stuff is going to be put out more. It's just the truth. Because I really do want to become a bigger YouTuber. I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to be like no million subscriber channel or anything, but I would love to grow our community. And I know this is going to sound, I don't know how exactly this is going to, I know it's not going to sound the best, but I would love to get this channel monetized. It's just the honest truth. I would love it if my hobbies could make me a little money. I mean, who would not? You know, that's one of the biggest, I think, motivators for people to do YouTube. You know, you want to get to talk about the stuff you like to talk about, like with me, with these dinosaurs and stuff. And I would just, I mean, honestly, it would be awesome to make a little money while talking about them. And, you know, obviously with the channel growing too, not even just money-wise, you know, the bigger a channel is with the more views and stuff, you know, like companies like Safari or Mattel or whoever could reach out and be like, hey, we'll send you some figures and stuff. But, you know, as a smaller channel, you know, just that's not very likely. But, yeah, that's why I mentioned that stuff. I mean, I'm still obviously going to put out the stuff I want to do. I mean, I did a Fortnite video on this channel, and like I was saying when it cut out, I know Fortnite's not for everyone, and that's probably why that video didn't do well, because I still am going to do a lot of gaming on this channel. I'm going to pick that back up on the Dinosaur King playthrough at some point, hopefully pretty soon, actually. I've kind of been getting really back into the Dinosaur King interest a little bit, but yeah, getting back on Dinosaur King, Path of Titans. Literally, I put a community post earlier today talking about seeing the video for the new update with the Tylosaurus and stuff. Looks awesome. And I will say, actually, with Path of Titans specifically, I've kind of got some stuff in the works to be able to play Path of Titans on the channel sooner. A little after Christmas is all we'll say. So might be giving a little bit of a surprise away. But yeah, around after Christmas, we might be doing some more gaming, specifically with Path of Titans. Because I've watched a ton of people play Path of Titans, but I've only got the mobile one. And actually, the mobile one's kind of gotten worse because you used to have more options, or at least you used to be able to place Concavenator on the mobile one, but then they took that away and now there's less options. So I've not played the mobile much since they did that. Maybe they've re-added stuff or changed stuff since then, but yeah, they did that and I wasn't as crazy about it. But yeah, so that's it pretty much for this video. For real now. Yeah, once again, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and can't wait to see where this goes from here. And I will say, we've got a lot of fun videos planned. I have a huge haul of Black Friday figures and more. I got a book. We got Heyman Collection. We got PNSO. We got Safari LTD. Even a little bit of Godzilla stuff mixed in there, and a little random bird figure. We got a lot of fun stuff coming. And that's just in the next haul video, not to mention all the other. We still have the Nano video that's coming out soon. Have started on that script for over a month ago, but just need to actually get it done. But yeah, there's so much cool stuff happening in the dinosaur prehistoric animal world. Like I said, with obviously all the cool figure stuff, and then Path of Titans, etc. So much cool stuff. Yeah, can't wait to be doing more on this channel. And yeah, it all is. I'm so, like I said, I'm just so happy to be back on this channel and getting stuff out. But this will be the actual end for this video. I've kind of yapped here at the end for so long, but yeah, just as you all can tell, I'm just really excited to be back on this channel and just trying to put out fun stuff. But yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching, and yeah, that's it.